In this video, we are going to evaluate these two expressions. So they're an expression because there's no equal sign at the end of it. So in Algebra 1, you would have evaluated functions. They had an equal sign. In this case, it's just an expression, but it's really the same process. The main thing that you got to remember is that we're going to be substituting a value for b inside of this particular expression and a value for c in this expression, and then we're just going to do the math. So let's go ahead and take a look. For instance, I'm going to go ahead and I have b is equal to positive 4. So I'm going to come over here to this particular problem. And you know what, let's add one more. I just realized I didn't have one for x. Let's say x is equal to 3. So I'm going to start substituting. I'm just going to draw an arrow from it, and in place of a b, I'm going to put a 4 in parentheses. Now it is very important that when you're replacing a variable with a number, you put it in parentheses every time. So next we have x is equal to 3, so I'm going to put an arrow underneath this x, and I'm going to put a 3 in there. Now notice this x value is being squared, so I'm also going to put my square symbol up here. B is being added, so I'm going to put a plus sign that's in between it. And then we have minus 8. That, I'm just going to bring it down. So we're not substituting, we're just relocating so that everything can be nice and neat from left to right. And then I have c. So we already dealt with x. The last one we're dealing with is c, and c is 6. So instead of a c, I'm going to put my plus sign because we're adding it, and then parentheses and put a 6 in there. Now we just got to do the math. So when I say do the math, 3 squared, right? And if you're not good at, you can always use your calculator if you're not good at doing these types of operations by yourself, but this is one that's pretty straightforward. I know 3 squared is just 3 times 3, so that's going to give me 9. If I distribute a positive sign, since this is positive, it doesn't change any signs, so this is just going to be still plus 4. And then we still have our minus 8. And over here we have plus 6. If I distribute that positive sign, it just stays positive 6. Now, I didn't do a whole lot of work yet, but notice I got rid of my parentheses, and now we're just going to start putting things together. So for instance, if I take 9 and I add 4, because I usually just do it from left to right, and I just do 2 terms at a time. So 9 plus 4 is going to give me 13. So I'm going to put those together, that becomes 13. And negative 8 plus 6, if I do that, that's going to give me a negative 2. So I'm going to write right here, minus 2. And we'll just continue this problem up here. So now I have 13 minus 2, and that's going to give me 11. So the answer to this is simply 11. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check it with the calculator, right? And so if I'm going to put all these terms into my calculator, so you can see my calculator right there. I'm going to clear it. And I'm going to put in just like I wrote it right here. So 3 squared, so parenthesis 3 squared plus parenthesis 4 minus 8 plus parenthesis 6. And I should get 11. And notice I do. So I know that I did this problem completely correct. All I did was just follow my operations. Once I substituted the b, the x, and the c. So let's do one more. I'm going to do a second example. On this one right here, notice once again, I left the x out. I'm going to add it. I'm going to say x is, let's say x is 4. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start substituting. I'm going to start with my x. It says x is equal to 4. So I'm going to come over here and replace this x right here with a 4. I'm going to make this a little interesting. I'm going to add a negative sign on b. So let's see. So x is 4, and we're going to put the cube symbol, right? Because that's a cube symbol. I'm going to bring down my 8 and bring down my minus sign. And then we got plus b. So plus my b value. Now b, I added a negative, so it's going to be negative 2. So my b is equal to negative 2. So I got to make sure I put that negative sign inside of the parentheses for b. Don't forget the negative sign. The sign in front of the number goes with it when you're substituting. Then I'm going to go ahead and bring down c. So this is minus my c value. And my c value is 7. It says c equals 7. So put a 7 in there. And now we're just ready to do the math. Now I'm going to move this up a little bit because I'm going to do it by hand first, and then we'll check it with the calculator. So let's go ahead, and I think a challenging one is going to be this 4 cubed, right? And what 4 cubed really means, I'm going to write this out in case you forgot. When it's to a power of 3, really you're just saying 4 times 4 times 4. All right, so if I write that out in expanded form. So I know 4 times 4 is 16, and times another 4 is going to be 64. So I'm going to write 64. I am going to go ahead and bring down my 8, right? So I got 8, still going to bring down that minus sign, right? And then we're going to go ahead and bring down our 2. Now in this case, I want you to remember, right, we have a positive being multiplied to a negative. This is like positive 1 times negative 2. And a positive times a negative makes a negative. So that negative 2 is just going to stay minus 2. And then we'll bring down our minus 7. Because if I distribute a negative sign to a positive number, negative 1 times positive 7 is negative 7. And now let's go ahead and start putting these together from left to right. So I got 8 minus 64. So if I have a positive 8 and I subtract 64 from it, that's going to leave me with negative 56. And then we're going to put these together. I'm going to put these two together right here. Negative 2 minus 7 more makes it negative 9. So we're almost done. We're just going to put these two together. So I have negative 56 minus 9. So if I already have negative 56 and I subtract 9 more, that's going to end up making that negative 65. And there's nothing else left to do. We've put together every single term that we can put together. And so what I want to do now is just check it, make sure I didn't make a mistake. So I'm going to get my calculator. I'm going to go right over here, and I'm going to type it in the way that I had it written originally with the parentheses when I first substituted. So I got 8 minus, parenthesis, 4. I'm going to put that, hit my caret key, put that to the third power, then get out. And then we have plus, parenthesis, negative 2, close parenthesis. And then we have minus, parenthesis, 7. So notice I got it right here, right? 8 minus 4 cubed plus negative 2 minus 7. And notice it gives me the same answer, negative 65, so I know that I did it correctly. And that's how you're going to, when asked to evaluate an expression, that's all you're going to do. Just substitute the values and follow the operations. And remember, in case you forgot and they throw something in here, I want you to think back to probably junior high where your teachers were emphasizing PEMDAS. Right? Remember that you always do parentheses first. And then you handle your exponents. And then you do multiplication. And then you do division, addition, and subtraction. And if you have some that are at the same level, just to give you an example, multiplication and division are at the same level, addition and subtraction are at the same level, you just remember that you do it from left to right. I'm going to put left to right. And this is when you're doing it by hand, right? You do all these things left to right, but you do parentheses first, exponents next, and then multiplication and division, whichever comes first from left to right, you do it. And then addition and subtraction is the last thing you do. And if you have both addition and subtraction, just remember to go left from right when you're solving the problem.